If you're new to our channel, we'd love to have you join our little community. Just hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. We promise it will be worth your while.
It must have seemed a little odd for the other passengers to see me greet a ginger tabby cat as it left the train, especially as it literally jumped into my arms. I was really excited to see Diana and hugged her small furry body to mine for quite some time as she purred in my arms. "You smell gorgeous today, David," she commented. "I'm so pleased to see you, Diana. I've really missed you." "I've missed you too. David, as does Emily. Although I don't miss your mess." I smiled inwardly as over the last few days, I'd actually found myself tidying up after myself, something that had never occurred to me to do in the past. "Would you like something to eat or drink after your journey? A little water would be nice." We left the station, and after a brief stop for Diana to have a drink and relieve herself in the shrubbery of the station, we headed down towards the beach for a stroll and a chat. I had sandwiches and a drink with me, and thought that the walk would give Diana and I the chance to catch up before we returned to Morag's house. Once on the sand, I removed my plimsolls and footsies. I stuffed my footsies back into the plimsolls before shaking the sand off them and putting them into my bag. It was lovely to be walking on the warm sand with my friend once more. I'd missed her terribly. "Do you know when I'll be able to return home with you, Diana?" Diana looked up at me as she walked by my side. "Soon, I'm hoping, David. I'm going to discuss it with Morag this evening. She's still worried about your safety following the incident at the Kirk." We continued along the beach by the golf course for some time, and as we chatted, Diana bounded about on the sand, chasing flies and shadows. She seemed to be having an awful lot of fun now being a cat. Up ahead of us, I could see a few fluffy clouds in the distance, and then up on the dunes, I noticed a figure waving their arms about as though trying to get someone's attention. I couldn't see the person properly as they were in shadow. It was just after this that the grasshoppers in the dunes stopped making their noises, and I felt a shiver run down my back. I looked down at Diana. She became almost rigid, and her back had now arched with her tail almost vertical. "Something is wrong, David, very wrong. Quickly head back to town now." I turned to leave, and had only gone 30 or so steps when I felt a very low frequency but powerful vibration through my feet from the sand. I turned to see that a section of the beach had a mound of sand on it, and that mound was heading towards Diana and I, at speed, tearing up the sand in its wake and leaving a deep channel in the sand behind it. Diana was standing firm, blocking the mound's way as it headed towards us. "Run, David, for heaven's sake, run for your life!" urged Diana. She sounded terrified but stood her ground. I panicked and turned once more and started to run as fast as I could back towards town. Then I heard it behind me, the sound of a cat in terrible pain. I stopped dead and turned. No one was going to hurt my friend. Diana was fighting something, but this something had no real form. It was just blackness. A similar blackness to what I'd already encountered at the Kirk. It had formed itself into an arm with crude fingers and had a firm hold of Diana and was thrashing her against the sand. "Stop! Stop now!" I ordered as I moved forward towards Diana's attacker, holding my arms out before me and concentrating with all of my might on creating a ball of plasma. The blackness completely ignored me and continued its assault on Diana. I released the ball, and it hit the blackness. The blackness immediately dropped Diana onto the wet sand. She just lay limply where she fell. The blackness reeled backwards several feet. It then swelled up and moved towards me. I fired another plasma ball at it, but this time to no effect. "And no, not T. The effect David attacked the sea 'cause," said Diana weakly in my mind. I started to move back as the darkness advanced upon me. The shadow on the hill was still gesticulating madly. Was this person the cause? I thought to myself. And as I walked backwards from the blackness as fast as I could, I fired another bolt of energy, but this time at the sand dune below the shadowy figure. It exploded and caused the dune above to collapse. I watched as the shadow slid 20 or 30 foot down onto the beach. The darkness vanished as she shadowy figure fell. "You need to stop him before he can resummon David," said Diana. She sounded terrible. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me towards the shadowy figure and could see it was a man. He was stunned and trying to figure out what had just happened. He needed to be bound, but I didn't have any rope. I started to concentrate, and as I neared the scruffy-looking man, I concentrated on the rough dune grass, seeing in my mind the grass being plucked from the dunes and then being twisted and plaited together into a long, thick plaited makeshift rope. The man got up and started to mumble and gesture once more. I could hear behind me the dark entity once again forming. I directed the now fully formed rope behind the man to wrap itself around him. "What the?" he exclaimed as his arms first became entangled and then became fixed to his side. "Look out!" shouted Diana into my mind. I turned to see the now fully formed dark entity heading towards me once more across the sand. I concentrated really hard, not really knowing on what. But then in front of me, another entity began to form. This time it was completely white. The black entity collided at speed with the still forming white entity, struggled for a second before apparently reeling back several hundred meters in pain. My entity, however, had now gone. I stood exhausted, and I could feel my nose running as the dark entity gathered itself before coming once again to attack me. "You should have stayed out of this. I wasn't after you. Your nose is bleeding, so I know that you now have nothing left to give," stated a cruel voice from behind me. I closed my eyes and concentrated on creating a more powerful entity to fight the darkness. I could feel my own energy draining as I put everything I had into it. "What the hell?" said the voice behind me. "David, stop, please, no, stop, you're killing yourself," begged Diana. I opened my eyes to see a large, fully formed, pure white entity, completely comprised of energy charging at breakneck speed towards the black entity. It collided with it at such force that the black entity was instantly vaporized. The white entity I'd created then continued on until it hit the sea and dissipated. Out of nowhere, Morag appeared with several other women. She shouted, "Cameron?" Before they set about subduing him, I headed over towards Diana, who was trying without success to get up off the damp sand. I gently picked her up and could instantly feel that her injuries were severe. I fell back on the sand and concentrated once more, cradling my friend in my arms. Diana was not going to die. Not again. She'd given me a second, albeit short chance of a new and wonderful life. I looked into her broken body and visualized her broken ribs, and moved them back into place with my mind before healing the bone. I then moved to her rear, shattered pelvis, and restored it, her damaged kidney, and the split in her liver. I also rectified. Finally, I set her 3 broken legs and then healed the bone. I could now feel my own life ebbing away as I looked for any more damage within my friend. "Oh no, you don't," said a familiar voice before I felt some unknown force hit me, and then blackness. I woke up gasping for breath and clawing for fresh air, only to be held down firmly by the shoulders. "David, don't panic. It's me, it's Morag." "Oh, no wrong." "Ha, yes, welcome back. Gosh, you are one troublesome but tough little cookie." "Nay nooths nung." "It doesn't surprise me one little bit. Just give it a minute or two and you should feel better shortly." I could feel my head being raised and what I assumed to be a cup pushed to my lips. "Try and sip at this, it'll help." I sipped at the bitter-tasting herbal concoction. It would never win any awards for taste, but it quickly returned feeling to my mouth and cheeks. "Better? Much thank you." As my vision cleared, I could see Morag. She looked very tired. "Diana?" Morag smiled. "She's fine, David, and very lucky to have a friend like you." "Where is she?" "Back in Newcastle. I thought it would be safer for her there. Do you think you could take a little breakfast?" I nodded. "I'll be back in a minute." She then kissed me on the forehead and placed 2 large pillows behind me before leaving. Whilst I waited for my breakfast, I took a hairbrush from my bedside table and started to brush my hair. It felt so silky and soft, and had obviously grown another inch or 2 since last being trimmed. I then noticed the silken nightshirt I was wearing along with the 2 small protrusions tenting the front out. I felt my face and found no beard, and not even the slightest hint of fuzz anywhere. When Morag returned, I asked how long I'd been asleep. She placed the tray down by my side and answered, Just over a week this time, to be honest. I just don't understand how you are still alive. That entity you conjured and the energy required, you shouldn't still be. I noticed the tears in Morag's eyes and shuffled over the bed to where she was sitting, then gently wrapped my arms around her. It was the first time I'd really seen any real emotion from her. Morag then held me. Some protector I turned out to be. I wasn't even there when you needed me. Protector? She broke off our hug and started to pour me a cup of tea. Yes, protector. Diana asked if I could look after you whilst she prepared her home in Newcastle properly for you. Oh, was that after the incident at the Kirk then? Yes, as when you confronted and defeated the evil within the Kirk, you became noticed, and not everyone in the magical world would have been happy to hear of the cleansing of the Kirk. I poured some cereal into a bowl and added a little milk, and as I dipped my spoon into the bowl, I commented, So I've managed to make enemies without even realizing what I was doing? I'm afraid so. It was whilst you were recuperating that Diana asked if I would look after you and mentor you for a while. I agreed immediately. Oh, do you mind? Morag was pointing at several slices of buttered toast. No, not at all. So does this mean you are like a master witch then? Not just old, and I hope it is quite wise. Like Yoda? Morag tried to look indignant and put her hands on her hips. Do I look like a green young lady? Teach you the ways of the magic, will I said with a smile on my face. Morag smiled back at me and brushed a strand of hair from my eyes. Diana was correct about you. It's such a pity your abilities didn't show sooner. It was my turn to frown now. I don't think it would have ended well, Morag. Until I met Emily and Diana, I was pretty much a waste of space as a human. Oh yes. Do you want to know how Emily is doing now? She could tell from the look on my face that I did. Well, she's forming words in short sentences now, and is starting to gain better control of her hands. The doctors are giving her withered, atrophied muscles little electric shocks in order to help build them up, and she is now getting physio 3 times a week. Diana is keeping an eye on her to make sure that her doctors don't do anything stupid. Oh, that is good news. And how is Diana? Has she recovered? I took a slice of toast from the plate. Diana is fine, David, thanks to you. As I bit into the toast, I felt something give in my mouth. There was no pain, but something definitely gave. I put down my slice of toast and reached into my mouth and then pulled out one of my teeth. It was an incisor and it was badly decayed and blackened. Morag must have noticed the look of worry on my face. Oh good, your new teeth must be coming in. I'll put a tube of teething salve in your bathroom cabinet for later. My teeth? Yes, you are growing a new set, as let's face it, your old ones are pretty disgusting. I now had the little hand mirror and was inspecting the rest of my teeth. I found 3 loose ones, all badly decayed. I trust that you will look after this next set better than your last. I just nodded, as I was now looking at my face and hair. Yes, you may want to do a little exploring once I've left David. I've left a couple of choices of clothing out for you, oh, and a razor, just in case you want to do your armpits and your legs. Morag cleaned up the tray and left my room quietly as I looked at my pale, clear complexion in the mirror. After a couple of minutes, I got up from my bed. I was a little wobbly, but managed to make my way to the bathroom. I hitched up the front of my nightshirt and pulled down my panties and then took aim and I got a wet leg. What the? I quickly felt my member. It was dry, but below it on my shrunken scrotum I felt damp. I dropped the seat of the toilet and sat on it. Then leaning over to see what was happening, I tried to pee once more. A gush of pee splashed against the front of the toilet, so I leant forward a little more and managed not to spray everywhere. When I'd finished, I took a little paper and started to wipe my inner thighs and my scrotum. This is going to take some getting used to, I said to myself, hoping that my current lack of stream control would be only temporary. After flushing and washing my hands, I went back into the bedroom and pulled off my nightie. Then, looking into the wardrobe mirror, I examined myself. My hair and face had changed quite a lot, and I loved my new look, as my nose had now shrunk into a petite little button nose, and my jaw had taken on a more feminine look. My shoulders seemed less broad, and my chest was now hairless and soft with 2 beautiful, tiny but perfect breasts forming. My waist was no longer the thick waist of a middle-aged man, and my hips curved out wonderfully and then tapered into my shapely but very hairy legs. My member, however, shocked me. It had finally started to shrink. But not only that I no longer had a hole at the end, my urethra had vanished. After acquiring the hand mirror once more, I lay on the floor with my legs splayed apart. My testicles had now completely gone, and my scrotum had tightened. I noticed a dark line from just above my perineum to just below where I found my new urethra to be. I held my member and guessed it to be only about 2 inches long now. I suppose the glands will become my clitoris once I've changed completely. I commented to myself. No sign of a vagina yet, though. I wanted to be concerned about what was happening to my body, but I wasn't. Just curious. Very curious. After my self-examination, I decided to get dressed. Morag had laid out some clothes on a wooden high-backed chair by the window. I got up from the floor and went over to see what she had chosen for me. Bra, t-shirt, dark leggings, and a short black pleated skirt. I also noticed a pair of knee-high stockings and a pair of very pretty black leather sandals with a little strap going over the instep. I looked down at my hairy legs. Well, maybe if I just shave up to the knee. I went into the bathroom and started to run a bath. As it filled, I noticed the bubble bath and smiled to myself as I remembered having very frothy bubble baths when I was a small child. I added the bubble mixture to the tap and stepped into the warm water. It was absolute heaven as the warm and frothy water engulfed my naked body. Oh, this is the life, I thought to myself as I lay with only my head popping up out of the warm water. After a very pleasant soak, I took one of the razors kindly left by Morag, and after soaping up my left leg, I started to shave it up to the knee. After seeing how good my leg looked hairless, however, I continued until I had an entirely bald leg. I then repeated for my right leg before tackling my armpits. After washing my hair and rinsing myself off, I wrapped a towel around my chest, then re-entered my bedroom, and after patting myself dry, I pulled on a fresh, clean pair of panties, and then the matching bra, which from the label was a AA cup and fastened from the front. I then slipped on the t-shirt, and before pulling on the leggings, I worked the knee-high stockings up my legs. Oh wow, these feel nice. I loved their feeling against my bare legs. Leggings next, and then an internal debate as whether or not to try the skirt. I felt myself smile as I said, "Oh, why not?" and stepped into the black pleated skirt. I'd seen and helped more than enough women undress in my life, so working out the skirt was child's play. Once dressed, I stood in front of the wardrobe mirror for quite some time, admiring my reflection and smiling at myself. I hoped that I wasn't becoming vain. I found the eyeliner pencil I'd been donated in my bag, and using the hand mirror attempted to copy what Claire had taught me. After a few seconds, I got the hang of it, and within a couple of minutes I'd lined my lower lids. I then noticed on top of the dresser, someone had left a tube of mascara. How hard can it be? I said to myself as I twisted the cap and removed the little brush applicator. It turns out that it is quite hard not to make a mess, and I abandoned my first attempt after 5 minutes. I quickly stepped into my sandals, and after fastening the tiny T-bar buckles, I headed downstairs to see Morag. For the rest of the morning, I helped Morag in her cafe. Nobody noticed as I served them that I was a strange half-man, half-woman hybrid, but I suppose outwardly I did look to be more female now.